Today, we're going to dive into one of history's greatest vanishing acts, the incredible story of the Fall of Nineveh.
Okay, let's start with a big question. How does the most powerful city on Earth just disappear? I mean, really think about that. Imagine a city like New York or London, just completely wiped off the map. So completely gone that for over 2,000 years, people weren't even sure where it used to be. Well, that's the story of Nineveh, the capital of the powerful Assyrian Empire.
So, before we talk about how it fell, we've got to understand just how incredible Nineveh actually was. For a while, this wasn't just some city. It was the city, the absolute center of the ancient world. You know, it was the capital of a massive empire that stretched all the way from Egypt to the Persian Gulf. And the scale of this place, it was just immense. We're talking about these massive stone walls that went on for 7.5 miles. Inside, you'd find a grand palace with over 80 rooms, huge temples, and get this, an advanced aqueduct system to bring fresh water in from the mountains. This wasn't just a place where people lived, it was an absolute masterpiece of engineering.
All right, so what's with this number, 30,000? Well, that's how many clay tablets they found in Nineveh's incredible royal library. It was built by a king named Ashurbanipal, and his goal was basically to collect all the world's knowledge in one place. Yeah, it was one of the very first organized libraries in all of human history.
And all of that knowledge was written down in a style called cuneiform. It's this really cool ancient writing system where they used wedge-shaped marks and pressed them into wet clay tablets. And these tablets had everything on them. We're talking history, science, medicine, even famous stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Now, a city this amazing needs some serious protection, right? And let me tell you, the Assyrian army was legendary. They were total game changers. They were one of the first armies to use iron weapons on a massive scale, which were way stronger than the old bronze stuff. Their army was super organized with specialized units, archers, chariots, you name it. And they had engineers who built these terrifying siege engines that could just smash through enemy walls.
But here's the thing, even the mightiest empires have a breaking point. And for the Assyrians, the cracks were definitely starting to appear from the inside.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. On one hand, you've got this unstoppable military machine. But on the other hand, the empire itself was struggling. The people they conquered were getting tired of the high taxes and started to rebel. The royal family was busy fighting with each other over who should be the next king, and the empire was just so huge that it could take weeks for a single message to get from one side to the other. So you see the picture, right? The army was still scary, for sure, but the empire itself was becoming really unstable and just too big to control. And you can bet its enemies were paying close attention. And seeing this perfect opportunity, two of Assyria's biggest enemies decided it was time to make a move, together. Okay, so let's meet the players. You had the Medes, who were these incredible horsemen from the east, looking to expand their territory. And then you had the Babylonians from the south, who had been under Assyrian rule and were desperate to get their power back. Alone, neither of them stood a chance against the Assyrian army. But they had a common enemy, and that's a powerful thing. And the leaders of these two groups were smart. They knew the only way to win was to team up. So they signed a treaty, formed a massive alliance, and combined their armies into a force that was finally big enough to take on the Assyrian Empire. And so, in the year 612 BCE, it all came to a head. This unstoppable alliance showed up right at the gates of Nineveh. The final siege of the world's greatest city was about to begin.
The siege dragged on for months. The attackers tried everything. They cut off the food supply, built giant siege towers to shoot arrows over the walls. But the thing that finally broke the city wasn't a weapon at all. It was the weather. Yeah, seriously. Freakishly heavy rains caused the nearby Tigris River to flood, and the water just washed away the foundations of the wall. A huge section of the city's main defense just crumbled and collapsed.
Talk about irony, right? The one thing that was supposed to keep Nineveh safe, its massive walls, suddenly became its greatest weakness. The river that provided life to the city was now the very thing destroying it. The defenders were totally caught off guard and couldn't fix the hole in time. And what happened next was just total chaos. The invaders poured through that broken wall. There was intense, brutal fighting in the streets. In the end, they set the beautiful palaces and temples on fire, stole everything they could carry, and then completely leveled the city. And just like that, the great city of Nineveh was gone. But the story doesn't actually end there. In a weird way, the city's destruction led to one of the most amazing discoveries in all of history.
So, with Nineveh gone, the entire Neo-Assyrian Empire collapsed. The Babylonians stepped in and became the new big power in the region. And as for Nineveh, it was left in ruins, abandoned, and eventually buried by sand and dirt. For over 2,000 years, nobody even knew exactly where it was. Which brings us back to that library, right? What happened to those 30,000 clay tablets full of knowledge? Did they just get smashed to bits or burned to dust in the fire?
Well, get ready for the most amazing twist of this whole story. The very same fires that destroyed the city actually saved the library. The intense heat didn't destroy the clay tablets. Instead, it baked them solid, kind of like pottery in a kiln. That fire made them incredibly hard and durable, preserving all that ancient writing for thousands of years. So when archaeologists finally dug up the ruins of Nineveh in the 1800s, they found them. Thousands and thousands of perfectly preserved tablets. It gives us this incredible, detailed look into their world, their laws, their science, their myths, even personal letters between people. It's just this wild accident of history. A city had to be completely destroyed so that its knowledge could survive. And today, we can read the actual words of people who lived thousands of years ago, all because their library burned down. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
And that kind of leaves you with one last thing to think about, doesn't it? We store everything today on hard drives, on servers, in the cloud. They stored their most important information on baked clay. So it makes you wonder, what part of our world today, what part of our knowledge and our stories will still be around in 3,000 years? What will people find when they look back at us?